Morning. This is Cricket St Thomas, Cricket House, which people will know from To the Manor Born, which I think was seen by 24 million viewers at peak. I bought it in 1965, moved here in 66, started farming in February 66. We then opened the wildlife park in 1967, which ran for 35 years. But I was a young 23-year-old land agent in Suffolk, doodling away one night when I saw this come up on an advert in the Farmers Weekly and thought, oh, 1,000 acres, 400 sheep, 100 cows, 30 cottages, cricket house, secondary house, 7 lakes. What is that worth? So I doodled about on a piece of paper and came up with 245,000 lock, stock and barrel. Wrote to the agents, 2 days later, yes, we accept it. Shit. I was earning 900 a year, I had a £400 overdraft. I rang my father, who was a retired tenant farmer in Staffordshire, and said, I told him what I'd done. He said, oh, I better go and have a look. So he drove down, had a look, and I rang him that night, and I said, what do you think of the place? He said, well, the shooting looks good. And that was his only comment. And at the end of the day, he gave up his tenancy, got a bit of money from tenant right. My first wife had a bit of money in a trust, and between us, we scrabbled together £30,000 as a deposit. That was it, and we moved in. I got a mortgage for 100,000 based on our lives from Scottish Widows. I had some from the previous owner that he lent us until we sold some cottages, and you know, we ducked and dived, and we've survived, what is it, 52 years or something like that. These are the old gates to keep the elephants in. So this, we had 7 elephants in here, and now the gardeners are using it as their workshop, as you can see, but all the steel work was here to put in, really to keep the elephants from escaping, although we did take them for walks around the estate and went for rides on them around the estate, which was wonderful. Basically, this is where all the gardeners hang out. Here's one of the ones hanging out. We're doing a film, so it's not that sunny. He's got his glasses on. My main reason for the wildlife park is, you know, Cricket House sits in 16 acres of beautiful gardens. We couldn't plough any of it up to put into potatoes or anything, so we had to find a way of employing gardeners. And to do that, we opened the wildlife park and had 300,000 day visitors a year. So when they said we hadn't got planning for a zoo, I said, I'm farming. You know, just because they're elephants or camels, what difference does it make? They've still got to eat and shit. The rest of the farming, we had 4 farms, 150 cows each farm, so we were milking 600 cows, and that, you know, that was profitable, and the wildlife park was profitable. But now, you know, everything is going down and down and down. English nature want us not to improve the grassland, so less sheep are carried on the grassland year after year after year. How long can it go on for? It's a miserable day today for you. God.
It's going to rain.
Lucky you did the mowing yesterday. Have you got it all done?
Not all of it, but a good amount of it.
Yeah, it looks, it's amazing. Mowing in November. You know, they cut all the lawns yesterday. But you can see here, this was all put up to keep the elephants in. That's steel from top to bottom. The bull elephant was in there, and then we had 6 cows in here.
Did you breed any?
No, we didn't, no. The bull didn't perform. 40 years ago, I got a Nuffield scholarship to study farm diversification in America, and I was so busy here, I had to give it up, so I never did it. But having been to a farm diversification show in Birmingham last week, you know, everyone is looking to do anything but farm, which is, I think, very sad. You know, fundamentally, farming and food production is our core business, and we're losing sight of that.
How many people work in the garden here?
About 4 at the moment. Used to be 8. So they're seriously reduced, aren't you? Poor chap. You get by. I suddenly thought, Roger's got a service at 11 in the church. If we're up there at 10 or something, he'll be there fussing about. This was the old elephant yard, but before that we used to milk 150 cows here in cow cubicles, and we had a lorry that was bringing in some gravel, 16 tons of gravel. He backs over the slats on the slurry tank, all the slats break, lorry goes in backwards, 16 tons upside down with just the cab showing. So you can imagine getting that out was difficult. And that was down to a nice student, one of our agriculture students, who I said, please don't let it go over the slats. He did apologise, but that's life. The cows went through here. We had herringbone milking parlour. We had a plate glass window at the end, and that was the first public viewing because the wildlife park was in the walled garden, and all the public used to watch the milking every single day. And that was one of the first examples of interpretation showing the customer where milk came from, which to us was very important. And the one behind, which we'll look at in a minute, was our grain store. And now it's a banqueting hall. And you know, I used to rear pigs in the other buildings, which all became gift shops. So you know, it's adapt and change, and I think that's probably one's philosophy in life. We were retailing all our own milk, so we were getting a good price for our milk, and we were delivering to every house on the doorstep until, you know, the supermarkets started to buy milk at less than their cost price and sell it in big plastic bottles to attract customers in. So instead of going to every door in every town, we went to every third door and then a fourth door, and it became totally uneconomic. But we were putting 1 million pints in glass bottles on the doors using electric vehicles and delivering all the other stuff. So how green can you get? And the milk price went up and down. We were paying quite a good price to our, you know, we were paying over the odds to our people. But the insidious thing in those days, and I had a big national, international fight with the Milk Marketing Board, which eventually the government abolished, they were trying to charge us a levy for every pint we sold to make us competitive with the big dairies who didn't have to have a farm to produce the milk. And I said, this is grossly unfair. We are marketing our product. You're the Milk Marketing Board, you should be encouraging us, not putting a fine on us. It was something like 3p a litre levy.
The big companies and anyone can get round the government maximum price for milk by charging a delivery charge on top of that price. And we proved this point where deliveries were down to 3 days a week, where they said it was uneconomic. They were back to 6 days a week within the week we started.
We were reducing our milking herds from 4 to 3 to eventually to 1. And the other problem environmentally, slurry tank expenditure, not being able to put slurry on the land, all the rules and regulations kept changing, the way you kept cows, you know, we got to have another barn with another set of cow cubicles. And at that point we said, look, let's change the system. I just look, learn and listen. I don't look at spreadsheets. I'm not very good at that sort of thing. We didn't have them in my day. We had the back of a fag packet. I think one's got to have the courage to try, and if it doesn't work, one's got to say it doesn't work. But not trying is probably the biggest mistake people make. You know, being too cautious. Hence, accountants shouldn't be CEOs of public companies because they're too cautious. After 35 years of running the wildlife park, keeping animals needed different disciplines, and therefore we didn't want to break out into the wider farmland and put sort of giraffes and zebra and things out in our farming land. So we were confined to the walled garden and the old lakes, and that restricted us from, and you know, attracting people, you've got to keep it doing something new every year. You know, Christmas lights, Easter egg hunts. And, you know, we're not spreading slurry on 1,000 acres every week like we used to. And we're not growing maize, so we haven't got the runoff from the fields. And in a valley like this, where we run from 800 feet down to 400, you can imagine, you know, there's quite a lot of runoff from the soil, which is not good for the soil or for the watercourses. So I think it's a change for the better. And now we're producing virtually organic beef and sheep, all fed on grass with very low inputs and hopefully higher outputs. We got to a point where the dairy company, which had gone into liquidation, that didn't affect us too much because we owned the dairy factory. But Lloyds Bank at that time were just being difficult about wanting money paid back. And we said, okay, well, let's put the whole place on the market and see who comes out of the woodwork. No one came out of the woodwork, but I had an idea that this would make an ideal hotel, and I'd looked at several other hotels similar to this with 250 bedrooms, which is a big hotel, And we approached the company, they said they weren't interested, and of course as soon as it went on the market, they were interested. And so that's how we secured them.
And do you still bank with Lloyds?
Funnily enough, we have gone back to Lloyds, so we forgive them, but there's one or two particular people there who might end up in my slurry tank. That is the oldest house on the estate. Goes back to the Doomsday Book, I think. We've just restored this top lake. They had trees growing out of it, so you can imagine we had 4 diggers in there digging it out. But we've got 7 of these lakes going up through the valley, which was all part of the wildlife park. So we had camels there, zebra there, sea lions in the lake, everything. You see over there, there's a duck feeder. That's another 50p in my pocket, you see, because every time they get some food for the ducks. So I have to make sure there are lots of ducks and lots of food. It's my pocket money. When we had the wildlife park, our duck feeders used to take 45,000 a year. Well, we've had to put a bypass in from the lake because the houses were being flooded. When it overflows, it can get to the stream uninterrupted. 4 inches in 4 hours. The levels of the lakes rise so quickly that the existing exit just can't cope with it. And 3 times now we've had all the buildings flooded. They were the tea rooms, lakeside tea room. I built that to cope with people coming down here, and we used to run the train from here up to the other end of the park. It's like a figure of 8, basically. It used to run the rack bench for the saws, and we cut 600 cow cubicles on it, all with water. It turns the turbine, it turns huge wheels, which I can show you down there. You put belts on them, and they used to go to the rack bench and turn the rack bench, and the lake would hold up for 6 hours before it stopped, and then it filled overnight and you started again the next day. Very good, very efficient. We've got 800 acres right round the hotel, so we're already farming bits that they own. But the house was built at the beginning of the 1800s, I think. There was a house, I think, in the old wall garden, an Elizabethan house, that either burnt down, and then they built Cricket House. And then Sir John Soane, the architect, worked for the Hood family who were here and rebuilt Cricket House in its present mode. And they had a gardener, with the help of the Hoods, redid the valley. Lord Bridport, I think in 1850, 1860, spent £250,000 landscape in the gardens. He got rid of the village, which was here, and put in 7 lakes instead. When we came, the foundations of 1 village house were still on the edge of the lake, and I had a man who was actually brought up in it, working for me. He was one of the last people to be, I think he was a foster child, to be brought up in that house, because he would have been in his 70s in 66. That's my father, who was inspirational in doing this woodland walk. The whole thing needs redoing. We've got ash dieback, we've got the rhododendrons. We'll walk through it so you'll see what it's like. So they had all this cut a few years ago. Well, I want to cut it all down again so that you've got water on one side, shrubs on the other. But I mean, we had playthings for children, climbing frames in this wood, and the children from Chard and Crook and Ilminster used to absolutely love it. Running along, the parents would walk, they would run to the next climbing frame, jump all over it. But all the paths are in, all the drains are in. There's some very good old trees, and there's a lot of rubbish ash which we've got to take out, together with the rhododendron, which completely sterilises the ground for any other shrubs. Or I look on it as a way to solve a problem, and the problem is a derelict woodland, which is part of a landscape parkland setting, so you can't clear fell it and plant Sitka spruce, for instance. And the same with all the woods that are facing the hotel or the historic house. So we've got to find a way of maintaining them, rather like an arboretum. I'm trying to get more swans. We've got 10 swans that have stayed now, and they keep breeding each year. And I'm talking to Abbotsbury to see if we can't keep a bigger swanery, if you like. There's a building just in the woods there which used to house the leopards. So we had a cage which was landscaped into the wood, and we had the Amio leopards, which are really very rare, and I think we bred 7 of them. And we've got a problem here, look. I can see the hotel will be phoning because there's a hole in the bridge. So they'll be wanting us to repair it, I expect. At the moment they will pay for it and we'll do it probably because they can't get little jobs done. I mean, I've just cleaned up all the paddocks. I've taken all the rubbish bushes from the sides, cleaned up all the lakes, topped it all, got the waterfalls running. I did this one yesterday, but this was completely covered. I was on the dumper going down the middle of the lake. The diggers were loading us, and we cleaned it all out in about 4 days. Water for the estate is a very important source of income. There is no public water here, so we're the main supplier. We supply 50 houses, the Brie cheese factory, and we supply 250 bedrooms, the hotel, 50 cottages, the pub, and it's all from a spring aquifer that runs right through this valley. So we're not actually boring for it, it's just running out. And that's the surplus over there. Now, I mean, the nice thing here, the structures here, it's just getting some enthusiasts. In fact, if I can get friends at cricket going again, they'd come up, I could do with some of these bloody immigrants. If we could just have some of them to come and help us, a bit of manual work in the outside, doing something, having a good meal, socialising. We've got to look after these people somehow. It's ridiculous. I've built a lot of loo blocks in my life, probably over 200. It's a bit like in the old days. I remember in Staffordshire, we used to have prison farms. You don't get prison farms today. What's wrong with it? Outside, they're not shut up, they're doing something useful, they're dealing with animals, which is psychologically a huge change. Why are we so stupid that we can't think out of the box and actually have some prison farms? Let them grow food. Let them grow food for the prisons. This was the train station. We had a tunnel here to stop the deer coming through it, but this was a railway line. This is the tunnel to Mr Blobby's house, which sadly is no more. And someone has cut out of the concrete above, as you will see, it had a nice big red B to signify it was his house.
It's Britain's first TV theme park. Visit Mr Blobby's house. See the wonderful wildlife parkland.
We got such a caning the first year from Noel Edmonds. He thought by putting up a few silly signs saying, Noel's crinkly bottom or something, and a pair of Wellingtons upside down in the lake, I said, no, we can't sustain what the public want. We've got to do more. So I built Blobby's house. Then we put in that water ride up in the park where we had Bill and Ben and the Clangers and a whole lot of televisions, and people got on a boat and went round it indoors. We do get hundreds of people on Facebook and Instagram saying, have you found Blobby's house? So it's become a sort of thing to find. So we're going to see what we can do. Sadly, they knocked it down because too many people were trying to see it. In peace, Blobby. Hope you are better. So what I would do if this was open to the public, rather than fight it, I will restore the bee on his entrance and put a board in there with the photographs explaining all about it. This was the old railway station waiting room. The train used to run from here up to the other end of the park. And it's still all here, all intact, and hopefully we can restore it. The railway came under the Railway Act, so they're not running HS2, but all the rules that apply to HS2 applied to Cricket St Thomas Railway.
I didn't skid too far.
No, you're all right. I missed you anyhow. You're all right.
Yeah.
Okay, see you later. My mission at the moment is to make every single clergyman in England a mental health counsellor. When people die, they go to the clergy. So what are they doing? To appoint our own vicar because we've got the hotel. You only look after us.
Yes.
Which is great.
Which is, I believe I'm the only one in this diocese that only has one parish. The only priest in the diocese that only has one church. Does that make sense?
But you're always busy.
Well, I love it.
You keep busy.
I keep busy, yes, love it. But I come up twice a day on my bicycle, which is good.
Yes.
It gives me a bit of exercise.
Keeps you fit.
And I see and I smell the air and look at the cows and
You wouldn't think he was 100, would you? But he's not. You might live to be 100.
Well, I don't think so.
And then the Archdeacon will say, oh, you're over so-and-so, you've got to retire.
Well, that's what they said to me 30 years ago. Nearly 30
It
years
is
ago.
ridiculous.
Yes, it is.
I've had enough to scare me. What with keeping 7 elephants, I still have nightmares about them. That's the only bad dream I can have on a continual basis, is escaping elephants. But no, I mean, I think faith and fearlessness go hand in hand, and the church here at Cricket has always been very important to me to keep it going. There are times that I have had to go and pray. If you can imagine, I did stand in the hall here watching the place being auctioned from under our feet when I was lucky to get someone to bid on my behalf, and it saved the family home. But that was quite traumatic, and it was done in full view of the television cameras at that stage, which happened to be the opening scene of To the Manor Born, I think. So that life copies art and art copies life. As Penelope Keith said to the vicar, "Oh, vicar, what are you doing here?" And he said, "I'm doing God's bidding." Before I forget,
Yes.
we've got carol service for the hotel
Yes.
at 5 o'clock on the 23rd.
I'll have to write that in my diary.
And the carol service for the estate, Friday at 7 o'clock, I think it's the 20th. So the Friday before, and then the Monday or Tuesday afterwards we've got, and I've said it's got to be 5 o'clock so they don't go and have some other entertainment.
Good.
Because otherwise we lose them.
Excellent.
So, but I'll give you those on Sunday anyhow.
Thank you
So
very
it's-
much.
it's-
What I was thinking of it overnight because I noticed last year and the year before, Christmas services, it very demanding of the children to be up at 11:30 at night.
Do they come to the midnight?
Yes, they did.
Well, they might as well come to the Christmas Day one.
I
wouldn't
thought
they?
that
Yeah.
would be much better.
Yes, and just have adults only
Yes.
on the... Yes.
Yeah.
So Janice is playing on Sunday?
No.
Oh, she's not. So
No.
we got the machine on
You got
Sunday.
the machine on
Oh,
Sunday.
right. We got a magic jukebox with 3,500 hymns on it, so we have to play it, which is... At least we sing. We've got 5 hymns and we sing the Gloria to Cum Ronda, which is very...
The Welsh people love it.
You'll have to see the notice on the door, which really points it out.
You're brilliant.
Yes, I'll show him that.
It's brilliant. It should be made into a postcard.
It'll probably be my tombstone. This was going to be Penelope Keith's house, but when the producer looked through his little lens, he said it's too big. So I took him down to the lodge. He said, that'll do. So then we made the gatepost to move from one to the other, so they got the continuity. Well, before those trees came out, you could just about see the parsonage from Cricket House. So it was all a bit of a fix.
Hi, you all right?
This is Tim,
Hi, yeah.
whose life's work has been at Cricket St Thomas with his father.
Yeah.
They built my house all out of flint picked off the estate,
Wow.
which is good. He's working, now his son's here.
Yeah. Next
So,
generation.
so
yeah.
3 generations. So quite often you have Tim and Matthew, his son, you have Stephen and Matthew, his son, and you have me and Josh or Jeremy, my sons. So we've got a lot of generations.
Well, it's very family orientated.
Yes, he's making my coffin at the moment. Yes, he is. Yeah, I know what he'll say. I'll drop dead and he hasn't made it. He'll say, "Oh shit, what are we going to do?" It'll be a real panic.
It will be, yeah.
That's the worry, because it's got to be lead lined, you see. Well, I'm going in the crypt. We've got a little mission to get it sorted out. Yeah, Tim, what are you doing today?
Doing a houndstone window.
Let's go and have a look. Is Matthew with you?
No, he's not today. No, college day today.
How's he getting on at college? Has he got much more to do?
He's getting there, I think, yeah. Like I say, he's only literally just started his second year, but he's planning on trying to finish it by Christmas.
Oh, that's good. Well, Freddie got his flying licence yesterday.
Oh, did he?
Yes, so he's now a pilot,
Oh, well done.
fully qualified,
Oh, well done.
which is good.
So is that sort of the line he wants to go down, John?
No, he's a builder.
Hamstones, it's a lot easier than
To cut.
than
Yeah.
obviously your flints and things like that.
Well, all the flint you have to nap, don't you? This
Gonna
is
say you
trouble.
press 'em more, yeah.
Oh, it's quite a soft stone, isn't it? Or it can
It
be
is,
quite
yeah.
soft.
The beauty of it is soft, but it's quite robust.
Yes,
So therefore you
yeah.
can actually make decorative.
Stuff out of it.
Yeah,
Yeah. And it weathers quite well, really, if
It
it's
does,
laid
yeah.
the right way.
I was going to say,
Because if it's not laid on, your father used to say,
it's got a grain.
yeah, it's got a grain.
This is what I was telling Matthew yesterday. when
Yeah.
he was doing it.
Good afternoon, Gareth.
Yeah, good afternoon.
How is this protest going to work?
Well, this protest is going to work hopefully just so that government can understand what the stresses and strains they're putting on our industry, an industry that's already on its knees, an industry that's already struggling. I think you haven't brought into the conversation.
What do you think about what they're saying?
Food security and the cost of food.
Yeah, it always annoys me when they say farmers are subsidised. The consumer is subsidised to have cheap food. And they always say it's the farmers get a subsidy. It's not, it's the consumers who are benefiting. And we're quite happy to operate on a market level. But would the consumers be happy?
Yeah, I mean, we have always been diverse.
Yeah.
We started diverse and
Because
always have been.
But because it's a complicated estate.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
not many farmers have a 16-acre garden.
They look at these big estates, they need to be protected. The small farmer needs to be protected. And yeah, I totally agree that it needs to go back to what it was before.
Yes, because I think of my father's farm. Okay, it was rented, but it was 250 acres with a nice house. If that had been owned and we'd had to sell off 50 acres to pay the duty, the farm wouldn't have been viable.
So they look at the posh person in the red jacket and that's what they don't like. And they look at large estates and they look at the sort of landed gentry and think, oh, actually, I don't like that. I want to tax that.
They need to look at country life and see how many 3, 4, 5 million pound country houses are being sold with 50 acres. I said...
Daniels. Sorry, yeah, Dan, you're right.
It is Dan.
Yeah, I was thinking something
Oh,
else.
you old bugger, you don't...
Yeah, no,
you can't remember your own name.
No, it's been one of those mornings.
How does it work? It's an amazing bit of kit.
It's the Canadian piece of kit.
Well, so that opens out to collect the cattle.
This all folds out
Yeah.
when it's off the ground to collect the cattle and force them up. This is a weigh crush, so they can come in. They can come in here.
So where's your? Oh, you haven't got the scales
No,
on it.
The scales go just on the side
Yeah.
because it's all computerised. So this operates the front gate. So the cow, you can do this anywhere you like along here.
Oh, what you can move it.
Yeah, if you can move it along. So it goes like that. So you can shut it up.
And then what?
So you squeeze it up so the cow's there.
And this what?
And that goes up.
Traps her head.
Yeah, so that comes down so she can't
Yeah.
lift her head.
Yeah.
So you can ear tag her, drench her,
Everything.
anything you want. And then
What's that? What's
this one?
Oh, is that the crush?
Yeah. Well, which way does this
No,
one?
it goes
Yeah,
in,
that's
doesn't
it.
Oh, that crushes.
Yeah, because you can't do it at the moment because the tyres and everything in.
Yeah.
So that will squeeze it up. So if you've got different sized cattle,
Yeah,
if you're running all different cows,
Yeah.
or you're running cows and calves like sucker cows,
Yeah.
you can squeeze them up and treat them. And then, this is tied up at the moment, but this all comes out so you can
deal with them there.
Yeah. We've got, the 4 sons, and as you know,
one's the gamekeeper.
One wanted to do pheasants, so he's
Gone.
not actually involved in the farm anymore. I mean,
Yeah.
he's still supported by the farm.
Yeah.
But he's not involved in any day-to-day running of the actual farm side of it.
Jim, how's the shooting going this year? Because we're not halfway through, are we?
We're a quarter of the way through with our days, but yeah, so far so good. A little bit too mild at the moment in natural food, but I think every keeper's struggling with that a little bit. But no, touch wood so far, customers are all happy.
And then my 3 other sons are doing 90% of the work now, I suppose.
I thought you did 90%.
Well, I do, but not really. I just pick and choose my jobs. I'm very lucky that I can pick and choose my jobs. And just keep going so long as I want.
Most of the time, it works pretty well.
I got you down as the youngest, you see.
I'll take that, yeah, I'm happy with that.
And your
Don't
mother
tell
said-
Nick and
your
Sam,
mother
but...
says, no, he's not the youngest.
No, I'll take that though. It's got a bit thin on top, so I can't get away with it. It works better now. Now we've moved away from the farm.
What, it's easier, is it?
It's easier, because otherwise you'd have an argument cows have got in the cover crop or keepers left a gate open or something, and then you'd see him again at 7 o'clock that evening and carry on the move.
When I asked Richard, you know, have you seen Jim or is he Jim? He said, no idea.
No, so now we have a little fallout every now and again, very rarely, and then we don't see each other for a few more days, at which point everybody's forgotten about what was said and moved on quickly.
All the wives get on.
Yeah, they probably get
on,
but they talk more than the brothers.
So how long do you think you'll keep going?
Oh, I keep going to probably the same age as you, 84. 85. No, I mean, I'm lucky, aren't I? Because I got, you know, I can pick and choose my jobs. If I want to go tractor driving all day, or if I want to go in and do book work, I can. So yeah, I'm.
Book work? Do you like that?
No, I hate book work.
No, well there you are. You see.
Joe makes me do it to pay the bills. Yeah, no, we'll just keep going so long as we want, really.
Morning, Matt.
Hello.
You all right?
Yeah, good, thanks.
We're filming.
Oh, hello. Hi.
Are you having a good clear up? Yeah. At last. Well, I say no one can see the smoke, and it's blowing the right way.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because, God.
It was a good fire. There's a big heat there. Earlier.
Is it going now?
Yeah, yeah. No, it's going really well.
Oh, that's a good fire, isn't it? Hell of a good fire. This is an area we had camping last summer, just as a trial. Yeah, 1 or 2 people came. We had some people from Cambridgeshire, drove 7 hours to come and camp. And then the other people were from Chard and Ilminster. And they said, well, where can we camp in Chard or Ilminster? And I never thought about that. You know, we assume we've got a big garden and we can put a tent up. Most people can't. We're hoping we might get some more lodges in the wood of a sort of more eco type of lodge. We've got this woodland area, which we've either got to replant or add it on to our existing. We've got 20 holiday lodges here. We built 20, sold 10 to pay for the other 10, and we let 10 or 12. And that's worked quite well. It always goes up and down, and now everyone's into holiday lodges, shepherd's huts, glamping, you name it. Talk about diversification. At the show in Birmingham, everyone was into it.
Do your neighbours look at what you're doing and say, if John's doing that, I should?
And we haven't had much of that, funnily enough. I mean, our biggest neighbour would be Ford Abbey, the other side of the Axe. Their gardens are open to the public, their house is open. You know, when you've got a Cistercian monastery you're trying to live in and keep up, it's a challenge. It's a challenge.
They've never been tempted to buy an elephant?
No, I don't think so. We've never had... The nearest competition we had was when Noel Edmonds threatened to open a theme park in Somerset or Southwest. That's when I picked up the phone and said, Noel, why don't we do a deal? Because it would have cost us 100,000 people, for certain, because we had 100,000 extra that year we had Blobby. Alan, I've got to talk to you for this film as our only one-legged employee. Alan came to us when, how old were you? 16. 16. And he's only 18 now.
Had a hard life.
What's your job title? What do you put yourself?
General dog's body.
We haven't worked that out yet.
No, Alan's fantastic. I mean, he rings me every morning about 7:30 for I either get a lift somewhere. Can you pick me up and take me up here and I'll get the track. He thinks for himself all the time. Apparently the pub closed down 3 days ago. It's gone bankrupt, and the brewery are desperate for someone to take it on. You know, my vision was that it wants to be more than a pub. It wants to be a farm food shop, coffee shop, carvery for lunch, and probably the pub side at night. Shut it at 6 o'clock. You know, country pubs on the main road.
Why is it your problem?
It's not our problem, but our lodges, our holiday houses, we got these 20 holiday houses. We put a lit footpath all the way through the wood, which ends here, and they walk across to the pub. Now there's no pub. We also supply water to them. So I mean, one wants to have something that you're proud of that's here. I don't want to run it, but I want to be proud of it. The brewery just said, please help us. And this is the second time in a year they've said that. So they're pretty desperate. They might even have to sell it in the end, which is sad, but you know, they keep ringing up saying, can you think of anyone who'll take it on? Because they don't want it to close. And we don't want it to close.
I mean to interrupt your interview.
Have you come for lunch?
No. No. We were going to run the folk club here on Thursday. Tonight.
Bloody nightmare.
Yeah, we've got some posters to put up on the door.
No, it's all shut.
Yeah, I know.
We know, but just in case somebody came here by mistake.
Oh, I see.
We thought we'd like them to
yeah, because we've turned 2 lots away for lunch. Nothing ventured, nothing gained. In other words, unless you try, it'll never happen. And I think that would be my feeling, that if you don't try something, you'll never know whether it succeeds or not. And to be brave and get out there and try. I know people say it's not as easy as it was today, but it wasn't easy in my day. I mean, interest rates were 8%, you know, when we borrowed money, and we were quite happy with that. We made it work at that. And today people grumble that they're 4 or 5. And when they got down to 1%, it's ridiculous. It teaches bad habits at that level, and that's what I would think of looking back over 50 years, where we've been, where we're going to, and hopefully we will manage to keep going. Well, I hope that with 5 children, and my brother's got, you know, 3 children, and between us we've left enough legacy and inspiration for them to pick up the baton and carry on with it. And so far, with some of my children and some of Stephen's children, they're both involved in the day-to-day running of the place. So that it's not as if they're coming in from Australia having to take over. They should be grounded, and if they've absorbed some of the spirit of what we've done over the last 55 years or whatever it is, then I hope that they've got the incentive to carry on. They all love living here, they want to be here, so it's up to them to keep it here. And I think that's the most important legacy I can leave. I can't do any more than that.